Welcome to the Elevate Your Equity podcast, where we, as married busy professionals, leverage real estate investing to unlock the 3+1 degrees of freedom: health, location, time, and financial.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Elevate Your Equity podcast. Today, we've got Brandon on the call. And Brandon, it's a pleasure to have you on. How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Derek.
Awesome. Brandon's an active syndicator and loan broker, and he currently owns multiple multifamily properties in Louisiana, Texas, Florida, and is a graduate of the Multifamily University. He's a native of Lethbridge, Alberta, Canada. Brandon came to Shreveport, Louisiana in 2004 to join the LSU-Shreveport Pilots Baseball Program, which is also an interesting story about what he does with his full-time work right now. Brandon graduated with his master's in business administration back in 2013 and started his own business that same year and has been active in real estate as an investor since 2016. Brandon, welcome to the show, man. How are you?
I'm excellent. Thanks for having me on. And so just to elaborate on what you said there, Derek, I came to the United States back in 2004 to play some baseball. Got recruited down on a scholarship from Canada. Ended up meeting my wife in 2006. She made me legal. I got my green card and I ended up coming back to coach, where I played baseball for a couple of years. And at that point in my life, I wanted to be a college baseball coach. I played baseball. I love baseball. I wanted to coach baseball. But I quickly realized in my second year of coaching that, number one, the money sucked. Number two, you're gonna have to move across the country to really follow your dream to get that big job. And we wanted to start a family. So I made the decision after I graduated that I was not going to coach college baseball, but I wanted to make my living in baseball. And that's actually my W-2 job today. Is I run a baseball organization called 2D Sports Baseball, and we host showcase and youth tournaments throughout the Southeast. We're in 10 different states. And we launched that company back in 2014, and we grew it from 4 events, and now we do over 100 a year. And as we progress through that, it's created some flexibility in my life to do other things that I love, which is real estate. And in 2016, one of the partners in the baseball organization was bragging about his real estate portfolio. And at that point in my life, I was like, all I know with real estate is buying a residential home and selling it. I've done it a couple of times. I've made some money, but I didn't understand how to actually invest and buy rental properties. And he had some short-term rentals in Panama City Beach, very successful, and probably the same path as a lot of people. Is you find someone that's doing it and you say, show me how. First thing he did is we 2 books on my desk and said, read these 2 books. The first one was Rich Dad Poor Dad, and the second one was just a general real estate investing book, just to understand about single family rentals, short-term rentals, just your basic knowledge. And I said, all right, I'm in. 6 months later, we bought a property together in Shreveport. It was a 3-unit triplex. 8 months after that, we bought a 6-unit in Shreveport. We still own those properties today, but that was my kickstart into real estate, small multifamily. The good thing about my mentor at that time, I think you're kind of on the same page. We're very bullish on multifamily versus single family. And I was lucky to have someone that was pushing me on multifamily, economies of scale, go get more doors under one roof. Because if I didn't have him, I probably would have went single family and just started growing a single family portfolio. So we bought those in 2016 and 2017. And from there, to date, we now have over 150 doors under our portfolio. We raise capital for real estate. I do loan brokering for real estate. I wear a lot of different hats inside the real estate game, and I still carry that W-2 baseball job. It's been quite the ride since 2016, but we've also made some mistakes along the way. I don't know if you want to hear about those, but that's kind of the backstory and how we got started.
Yeah, no, thanks for that, man. This is an awesome story. It sounds like a very typical type of story. A lot of people go through this journey. Although, there was one thing that you kind of flew over real quick that I wanted to explore before we start working with your superpower and start talking about how to expand that for all of our listeners on the podcast here. You said that your mentor threw 2 books on your table or 2 books on your desk and said, read these 2. And you said you just glossed over the fact that 6 months later, you ended up buying your first property, right? That's really impressive. So my question to you is, even though you had these books at your disposal, there was something there, right? Something behind all this that was ready for you to start buying this. Where did that spark come from? Was it the need to create passive income, or what was it that actually got you motivated so that once you had the material, you were able to execute really quickly?
Yeah, it was two things. Number one, in the Rich Dad Poor Dad, it talks about the real definition of assets and liabilities. Basically, an asset is something that puts money in your pocket, and a liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. It's that simple. Okay. And at that point, I owned no assets. If I thought about it, I always thought my house was my asset, but really it's a liability because it's just taking money out of your pocket. But sure, it's appreciating, but there's no cash flow there. And I looked at myself, I said, okay, so I've got this great W-2 job and we've got this great baseball business growing. And I said, what happens if that goes away? We're running a small business, and small businesses fail. I think 80% of them fail within 5 years. Don't quote me on that stat, but it's something like that. Within 5 years, they're done. So I said, we're in year 3 of this thing. What happens if it goes away? I'm back to the drawing board with no other income. I said, I've got to create other income streams. And real estate, it just sparked with me. And because my mentor was doing so well in it, I said, let's get in the game. I had no money to do it. I had no money for a down payment. I also had no money to start my baseball business back in 2014. So what did I do? In 2014, I called my dad. I said, I need a loan. And then in 2016, to buy my properties, I went to my uncle and said, I need a loan. And I created one piece of paper, terms, how I'm going to pay him back, the interest rate. And I did it over 5 years. Each of them over 5 years, I paid him back. And that's how I got in the game. So for someone to say the biggest excuse to not get in real estate is I have no money. There's always money to be found, whether it's through family, whether it's through friends, whether it's through partners. But back to your question, it was about understanding what an asset is and creating a secondary source of income for me and my family.
Yeah, this is fantastic. So I love that you addressed something that most people get held up by, which is, oh, I don't have any money to do this. And, thinking back right now, Brandon, like Sophie and I, my wife and I, our story started similarly, where we didn't know what to do because we didn't have the money to put down, $100,000 for a house in the Bay Area, in the California Bay Area where we were living. So what we ended up doing was we went to Sophie's uncle to ask for the money to help us close on this. And then we told them that we would repay it back with interest as time goes on. And also if we end up selling it, then we'd give them the money back as well too. And that's exactly how it happened. We ended up like putting some money into the property and then improving it. And then when we sold it, we gave all that money back, but we had some extra equity that we could roll into a house on our own. So yes, it took time. It took a couple of years, 3 or 4 years actually, while we were holding that property. But it was California real estate and things were just going up. So it was like the jumpstart that we needed. And so I love that you addressed this, because people that are looking at and say, well, we don't have anyone in the family with that kind of money. I can guarantee you that if you educate yourself and you demonstrate that you know what you're doing by spending the time to really understand this business well, you can find someone that has that money. So I just wanted to inject that in there. So thank you for telling that story.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and move on. I want to talk about your superpower, which is building immediate trust. At least that's what was discussed when you and I talked at the Best Ever conference, and then also here in the forum for the podcast. Right. So let's talk about that a little bit. Can you talk a little bit about when you realized that you had this superpower of building trust?
Really, it wasn't until I started raising capital for real estate last year, because for 2016, we buy those properties. 2019, we go to the Neil Bawa Multifamily University boot camp for 3 days. And we go, the light bulb clicks on, and we go, we need to go bigger. We need to go large multifamily. And the bigger you go, the more money you need. And you've got to raise capital. And I really didn't click for me until we had a deal last June. It was our first large deal to go raise capital for. We had to raise $250,000 for this deal. And we had 9 days to do it. I think 8 or 9 days to do it. We came in real late on this property because it was one of those ones where someone said they could raise capital. They're getting to the closing table. They hadn't raised $1. So they reached out, we connected, and we said, how much time do we got? And they said 9 days. And we said, well, here's our chance. We either make it or we're out. But behind that, we've spent 8 months warming family and friends up. We started telling people what we're doing. We started developing relationships, talking about real estate. But what hit the nail on the head for me about building that trust is I had 2 investors put in $50,000 into the deal without even looking at the deal. It was a 506B deal. And the reason they did it is because they trusted me. because of the relationship that I built with them for years. Building trust isn't about them trusting me on this specific deal. It's about they just know that I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. I underpromise and overdeliver. It's really not that difficult to do it, but I never understood that until people started telling me that, hey, like, you're very good for first impression for people to go, man, that guy's got some integrity behind him. And I don't try to do that. I don't try to sell people that, hey, trust me, trust me, trust me. It's just about being a decent human being. It's not that difficult. Don't have a transactional experience, have a human experience. Like I met you at the Best Ever conference, and it's like, hey man, what's up? What are you up to? Cool. I do that too. That's great. You want to go grab a beer? Like have a real relationship with somebody and try to get to understand where they're coming from instead of just telling them what you're up to. So that's how it kind of started for me. It sparked last year. Now that I know it, I'm trying to just not force it and just tell you what I've been doing. And that's just having genuine conversations with people, trying to understand, put myself in their shoes, understand where they're at financially, where they're at in the real estate game, see if I can help them. And if I can't, that's great, whatever. Like we'll just continue talking and maybe one day we can, plant the seeds, right? Everyone talks about planting seeds. Everyone wants that money now. Everyone wants that 50K now for their deal. But you got to understand that that person may not have 50K right now, but they're going to have it in 5 years, and you're going to have another deal in 5 years. So that's where building trust and building quality relationships comes from.
Thank you for mentioning all this. I wanted to address something here too, because first of all, everyone is human. Everyone wants to feel that connection. And so when you're connected with someone that is creating an opportunity for you, right? And you're fully trusting them with $50,000, $100,000 of your own money. That's why that personal relationship comes in. Could you speak a little bit to the fallacy that most investors face when they first start, which is you find a deal that's good enough and you'll just have investors automatically? Can you address that for us?
That's a myth. If you're planning on having a deal and you're planning on raising capital for that deal, you better start now warming people up. And the way you warm people up is you just start talking about what you're doing and why you're doing it. This is what I'm going to buy in real estate, and this is why I'm buying it. And when I buy it, there's going to be opportunity for investments. That's how you start. And the way you start is look through your database on your phone. Just go through and be like, who do I know that I have a good relationship with, that I could have a conversation about money and real estate with, and write them down. Add them to an email campaign and email them and talk to them on the phone and be like, hey, this is what I'm doing. And we don't have a deal yet, but we're going to have a deal in about 6 months. And just keep them warm. Keep talking about the benefits of real estate. Keep talking about the passive income benefits. Talk about the rate of return, the difference between investing in real estate and investing in stocks. Keep them warm, keep them warm, keep them warm. And when the deal comes, or maybe somebody else's deal comes, that's what people forget, is that you don't have to raise capital for just your deal.
Yeah.
Other people have deals that they need capital for. And if you trust that group, you can bring your investors into that group. And that's what happened to us. So start today. Don't wait until you have a deal, because by that time, people are going to go, what's real estate? What's multifamily? And I didn't even know you were doing this.
Yeah, exactly. I love this servant mentality that you're coming to with all this, right? Like being able to say, I just want to serve. I want to present opportunities and help. And I think that that's one of the reasons why maybe you come across as so genuine and good intentions. So I wanted to just point that out there. That's something that I see.
Well, and to the point about building trust too, is people seem to put on a different cape and a different mask when they go to start raising money for big deals. Like they go, okay, we're talking about multi-million dollars. I've got to put on my suit and tie so that people know that I'm professional. And then when you walk through the door at home, you rip it off and you throw on your shorts and a wife beater and you're drinking beer on the couch. Well, guess what? People want to relate. That's what everybody does. Like people want to relate to real dads and real people in real life. They want to know who you really are, not just who you are 9 to 5 with your suit on, right? That's how you get people to believe in you, because you're just like them. You put your pants on left first and then right. I don't know. I'm trying to go the other way, but all over. But everyone puts their pants on the same way. just because you have a different net worth or more liquidity, you have more deals, you're still a dad, you're still working a W-2, most people, you're still trying to get yourself out of the middle class. The most successful people in any business, whether they're multi-million dollars or just getting started, have the ability to relate to that person on a human level, to empathize because you've been in their situation, or maybe you're currently in their situation. So don't be two-faced, don't be two different people, just be you, and you will attract people.
I love this. Can you tell us what building trust has enabled for you? I mean, we've already covered the business side, but what maybe that has spilled over into the personal side or into things outside of real estate investing?
I think I've become more confident in my ability to execute. I think for the longest time, I knew I could do it, but I was always waiting for someone else to come help me do it. I had a business idea and I was like, man, I could really do that, but I think I need somebody else to come help me. And now I'm getting to the point where I have some confidence because I've been through it and I've done it, that I can say, you know what, if I ever want to just do something on my own, I'm going to go do it. And I might go backwards 2 steps first, but I believe in one person more than anybody on this planet. And that's myself. And it took me a long time to get to that point. And there's still days when you have doubts. Everybody has doubts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're under contract on a $1.6 million RV park right now, our first RV park, and the doubts are creeping in. They really do, because it's like, well, what happens if this fails? And then you got to dial it back and go, well, look how much we've accomplished, me personally and our team over the past 5 years. Like, we will not let this fail. So building trust, building relationships, getting good feedback from people on kind of just reemphasizing what I actually believe in myself and people actually saying it. It just creates more confidence as I move forward.
Yeah, I could totally see that. And I do love the shout out here to The Gap and the Gain. If you've read that book before, this is like the 7th time I've mentioned that book. And I even put a post out there on LinkedIn about this the other day. But that gap and the gain thinking right there it's very reminiscent of this self-confidence and this trust factor that you're talking about, is trusting in yourself and the confidence. I just love that. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
So one question I wanted to ask you is, how do you suggest our listeners work on developing a knack for building trust, basically? If someone is starting from scratch and doesn't quite know how to do this, what tips would you have for someone who's just starting down this road?
Are you talking about multifamily, like real estate specific?
Yeah, or just building trust in general with people.
Yeah, I would start in real estate. Pick one thing inside of real estate to start with. So if it's going to be multifamily investing or single family or short-term rentals or raising capital, pick one asset class to focus on and learn as much as you can about it, because you've got to be able to talk to people intelligently about it. And you've got to be able to talk to people on a Barney style level. So you're going to read these books and there's going to be all these terms that are, think you have to have like the highest IQ in the world to understand. If you go talk to Uncle Joe about that, he's gonna, what the hell's IRR? I don't give a shit. I want to give you $50,000. How do I get my money back? That's the question you got to answer in a Barney style term. Is if you're asking for $50,000, just tell them how they're going to get their money back and how you're going to take care of their money and why you. And if they ask you if you've never done a deal before, be truthful. I haven't done a deal, but guess what, Uncle Joe? I've been to this boot camp. I've talked to these mentors. I've been on this mastermind. I've read these books, and we're ready. And that's what you do on your first deal. The first deal is always the hardest because there is that doubt from investors saying he's never done this. But you know what? You can partner with people that have. So to dial it back, to build the trust, educate first, and be able to talk to people on just a normal level about it. Casual conversation. The second that you start to project a higher IQ and using these big terms, you're going to turn people off, because if they don't understand it, how are they going to put their money into it?
In the end, it's all about personal connection, right? There's definitely a component there. But if I look back on all my conversations, Brandon, with my investors, right, I would say that maybe 90% of the content we talk about is our kids, family, hobbies, interests, things like that. And then 10% of it is just how deals work,
Yeah.
And my most fervent investors are the ones that we have that relationship with. And when you're trying to build like this network of investors around you, right? And originally, like when you first start, you should be talking about warm leads or people that already know you. So there's that trust factor that's already there. But when you start getting outside, right, or you start getting one layer deep, that's where this is super important, because soon you're going to have the people that know you, they're going to give you referrals, right? And then those referrals are going to start testing you. They're going to start talking to you. And obviously there's a common connection there. So that's how they got to know you in the first place. And that's what brought you to the point of being able to have a conversation with them. Because a lot of people, they'll go out there and just expect to just put material out there on what they're learning and everything, and then get a whole bunch of people to flock to them, right, based on what they're learning. But unfortunately, it's a very competitive space. And so has there been any way that you've been able to use your trust building to get referrals? And then how do you handle referrals or that in that type of situation?
Yeah, and the question, when you have an investor that comes and gives you money for your deal and it's part of the deal, the next question you should ask is, who else do you know that would be interested in real estate or interested in investing with us? Most of the time, those people will give you 2 or 3 names. And the question I don't cold call those people. I say, hey, can you please give me a warm introduction through a text message or through an email, and be like, hey, this is Brandon with Real Focus Capital. You might want to talk about real estate. You've got to get kind of break the ice with that person who knows that person. And then you get on a call and you say, hey, this is who I am. You want to go grab coffee, get to know who they are as a person. What do they do for work? Where do they live? What's their family life like? And just, you start warming them up again. And you talk to them about real estate and why you do it and how you got started. But that's the question you need to ask is, who else do you know that would want to invest in real estate?
Yeah. And I think that also your backdrop of coming at it with a servant mentality and people being able to trust you because you know what you're talking about, and that you want to come with a genuine intention to connect and to create opportunities for people. I think people pick up on that. And that's why it's so easy for you to generate success from referrals.
Yeah. And I think I read it the other day online. Someone was talking about the fear of raising capital is the fear of asking people for money. And when you're raising capital for real estate, you're not asking people for money. You are offering an opportunity for investment. And there's a big difference, because you're not going for a loan. You're not saying, hey, I need $50,000 for a loan. You're saying, hey, I've got a deal. If you put 50,000 in, you're going to double your money in 5 years or whatever your projections are. That's an opportunity. That's not a loan.
I love it. Yeah. You're partnering together with someone, right? So you're putting your money in and your effort in and together and creating this marriage, so to speak, for a 3 to 5 year time period. So very, very cool. Last question that I have in regards to trust. There are some folks out there that I've seen operate in the operating world of multifamily and in commercial real estate. Have you seen a difference from those that garner trust and those that do not? And I wanted to get what your take is on how well people perform without having trust versus people that do.
I think if people are doing it to fill their pockets and not build the quality relationship and trust, they're just not going to last very long. They're going to be outed, especially in the multifamily world where everybody knows everybody and it's a partnership. There's a lot of partnerships going on. You overpromise on one property and underdeliver on your operation. It's going to be a short road for you. Be careful on who you partner with. Be careful on what asset classes you're buying. Be careful on what market you're buying in. The market might be the most important piece of that whole conversation right there, because that's the mistake that we made early on in our investing. Those 2 properties I bought first were in Shreveport, Louisiana. I didn't understand market research back then. I was just ready to get in the game. So be very careful on where you invest in, because the book that I read told me to invest in my backyard so you can go touch and feel the property and drive to it. But little did I know that I lived in one of the worst markets for multifamily investing in the country at that time. That's what drove me to go to that Neil Bowell conference. If you want to build the trust, partner with the right people, do what you say you're going to do, overpromise, underdeliver, and over communicate. Things are always not going to go perfect. You're going to buy an asset and tell your investors you're going to want to do this, this, and this. That's a projection. That's a business plan. Things change. If things change, communicate. You're in partnership with these people that gave you money for your deal. Tell them what's going on. If things are going shitty, tell them why. And tell them what you're going to do to fix it. That's all everyone asks for. If I've given my money to deals, just tell me what's going on. Keep me in the loop. I understand things are going to go south, but how are you going to get them back to go north?
Yeah, awesome. Going full circle on this, I was going to wait to ask this question, but I feel this is a good time to do this. Can you talk about a few times where things maybe did go wrong and you were able to leverage this trust that you've built with your investors to kind of explain the situation or just help make the whole thing either go away or make it be alleviated, gotten easier?
Yeah. So on the property that we closed on last June in Texas, there was an issue with the catwalks that we didn't project. So we had to go find an engineer, and there was an capital expenditure in there that we had not projected because nobody saw it until we closed on the property. And we go a couple weeks in and we go, hey, that catwalk needs repairing. Well, that's not just call a contractor, come in. That's a civil engineer, a city. It was a whole process. And that put us behind about 8 months on the business plan. And so what you have to do is just communicate. This is what we found. This is how we're fixing it. This is what we're going to do now. This is how we see it playing out after this is completed. And the investors, they're appreciative of it. Obviously, they're not happy that happened, but it's just communicating. That's all it is just communicating and rebuilding the trust, right? If you hide it from them and you don't tell them what's going on, you're going to lose their trust.
That's awesome. I love this. Cool. Well, Brandon, I know that we could continue talking about this all day pretty much, but what I want to do is I want to bring this to the rapid round. And in the rapid round, we'll ask 5 questions of every guest. So it's every single guest that we've had on the show. We ask these questions and they're meant to be answered in about 30 seconds or less, at least if possible. If not, like if there's a really good story behind it, then I definitely want to hear it as well. But are you ready to go to the rapid round?
I'm ready.
All right. Number 1, what book has had the biggest impact on you and why? And we ask that it not be Rich Dad or the Bible because we get that a million times.
Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins.
Oh man, such a good book. And why is that?
The motivation it gave me to challenge myself physically. For the longest time going through sports, you do your workouts, you do what you're told to do, but I've never really gone beyond that. After I was done playing, I just go to the gym, work out, blah, blah, blah. So after I read that book, I put on my calendar to run a half marathon, and I ended up actually running a full marathon. And that's something I hate running. I hate it. But I read that book and said, if this bastard can do it, I can do it. And that, when I did that, that's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, ever. I told myself, if I can do that, and I did it, and I finished under my projected time, I could do anything.
Dude, congrats, man. That's awesome. Yeah, that book just inspires me every time about the nature of the human spirit and how we always short ourselves, right? And what your body can actually do and what your mind can actually do. And you always have more in the gas tank left. So always. Definitely. Yeah, listeners out there, listen to Brandon because that's a fantastic book. All right. Number 2, if people wanted to emulate your success, what is the first actionable thing that they could do to follow in your footsteps?
Start doing the miracle morning. Or a version of it. Get up earlier than everybody else, do things that everyone else is not willing to do, and you'll see your income streams, your relationships, everything grow beyond your wildest dreams. And I started doing that actually back in 2020. And I'm not perfect at it. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I do the miracle morning every morning at 4 a.m., but I do a version of it, and I'm going to challenge myself again to do it for 30 days straight. I always do these challenges, but that alone, that book and that mindset of doing it early in the morning before everybody else, that's the one thing I would do right now.
Very powerful. Love it, man. Thank you. Number 3, what is one tool, process, or hack in the last 3 months that's helped you save time and or effort?
Asana, task management system.
Mm-hmm.
I was introduced to it by VFR Capital out of Dallas. They're one of our partners that we do acquisitions for in the DFW area. They introduced me to Asana, and Asana, they do it for their entire deal pipeline, all their task management. It's very low cost, and it is a time saver, and it holds everybody accountable. All the communications through there. So I know there's a lot of platforms out there, but that one alone has really, we've become way more efficient because of it.
Yeah, awesome. I would love to see how you're using Asana because we use it as well for all of our workflows too. So yeah, definitely looking forward to that after the show. All right. Number 4, if the people that know you had to describe you with one word, what do you think that word would be?
I guess likable. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm very hard to be like, that guy's an asshole. Sometimes I am, but I just don't think people are like, I think they're just like, oh, that guy's likable. He's down to earth. I try to be. I mean, we're very successful. We've had a lot of success in our business and our real estate. And I feel like I'm just getting started, but being humble, just understanding where I came from Canada. I'm living the American dream. I really am. I just became a citizen 10 days ago.
Dude,
I was a
congrats,
permanent,
man.
yeah, I was a
Awesome.
permanent resident for 10 years.
Yeah.
So I'm just telling you, if I can do it, if I can come from a different country, play at a decent college. I was an okay college baseball player. I graduated with my MBA. I can't remember anything I learned in my MBA probably right now, but I'm just saying, if I can do it, anybody can do it. It's just about being humble, doing things that other people aren't willing to do.
Yeah, it's awesome. I have a partner in Canada also. He's from Calgary. And I can say that, yes, it's most people from north of the border are very likable. I really enjoy company that are down here in the United States. So it's really great.
Canadians are nice. They say we're nice people.
Yeah.
Everyone's nice. We apologize for everything. I don't apologize as much anymore, but
That's a
different mindset.
Yeah, that's the American rubbing off on you. So
yeah, I've
that's
been
pretty
here for what, 16 years now or 17 years, but
yeah, it's time.
but yeah, I think it's just about, being a likable person and being the guy that you want to go crack a beer with and hang out and have a good time.
I'd want to do that for sure,
Yeah.
especially if you're coming out to Vegas here shortly. But I think we may be missing each other. But
I don't
still,
know if you're going to be there. You're gone every 3 days to somewhere.
Yeah, that's true. All right, number 5 and last question. What small thing do most people not know about you?
Oh, I can plug this now. I'm actually a loan broker as well.
Cool, man.
I help commercial real estate investors find loans for their deals. So if you've got a loan amount that's $1 million plus, multifamily, storage, RV park, whatever it may be, we have a database of very, very good lenders across the country that we use for our own deals, for our syndications that we're sharing with other groups. So yeah, that's the plug. Centroidlending.com.
And just want to give the listeners a little bit of a nudge too. When you have someone who's a loan broker that's on the team that's able to help with the underwriting and help putting the deals together, that is a huge plus, because oftentimes, especially in this market right now, it comes down to what type of financing you're going to get, whether or not you can actually get the deal or not. So just a little plug for the audience for your deals.
We can go 30 more minutes talking about that, but you're right. The nice thing about our brokerage is that we are apartment syndicators. So we know what it takes to close a deal because we've done it. I mean, there's a lot of good lenders and loan brokers out there, but they haven't been in the weeds of actually taking a deal from LOI to close and going through the battle of financing. And we have. So we use that experience to help you because we can empathize with everything you're going through. But we could do another podcast for 30 minutes on the debt and the lending environment and how difficult it is to actually close a loan. And if I see one more post on Facebook about someone asking for 100% financing on a loan, I'm going to throw up because it doesn't exist. People, stop putting that on Facebook and stop liking those comments, because no lender and no private money person out there is ever going to give 100% financing. They're going to want skin in the game. So if you don't have the skin, go find it.
Yeah, along that same line, I totally agree with you. I think the only way that would be even remotely possible would be a seller finance situation, but that takes a lot of time to find, because if there's someone out there that's looking for it that can get into it, that takes skill to manage. Because if you're going to do 100% financing, most times you may be over leveraging, right? And so you better know what you're doing in the space. So completely agree with you there, Brandon.
Find me a seller that's going to give you 100% financing. Maybe they're out there. I mean, it's small chance, but
right.
But if you need help with even to chat about lending and in the environment we're in and some advice, I'm always open to talk to anybody.
Sounds awesome. Thank you so much, Brandon. And, before we end up, because we're wrapping up the show right now, before we end the show, why don't you tell the audience a little bit more about how they can find you, what else is going on? Because you got your lending business, you have syndications, you have your baseball. So where can people find out more about everything going on that is Brandon?
Yeah, I like LinkedIn. LinkedIn's great. I'm actually becoming much more active on LinkedIn. That's one of my faults, is actually being more consistent with social media interaction. It's just, I think I need another virtual assistant of some sort. But Brandon at centroidlending.com is my email. And yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn or Facebook. We just started a new Facebook group called From Middle Class to Millionaire. That's one of our new ventures here to attract some, everyone that's stuck in the middle class looking for a way out. We're trying to create a community to help each other to get out of that rat race. So centroidlending.com and LinkedIn.
Love it, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Brandon. I really appreciate your time, and thanks for sharing all your wisdom too.
Derek, appreciate you having me, man.
Absolutely. And for you listeners that have listened all the way to the end of the show, I want to thank you as well. And please, wherever you're listening or watching this, please engage with us. Like, comment, subscribe, do everything you can or anything you want to do so that we can help get this show into the good favor of the algorithm gods, so that way we can get more exposure to more individuals and have more fantastic guests on like Brandon. So I wanted to thank you as well. And Brandon, once again, thanks for coming on the show. For you listeners, thank you guys. We will see you next time. This is Derek signing off. See you guys.